My wife left me when I was caring for my dying father, but when he made me a millionaire in his will, she came back crawling. I'm a 36-year-old man, married for 8 years with 2 children. I am also the only son of my ill father. My dad has been struggling with kidney problems for many years, and in the last 2 to 3 years, his condition has worsened, requiring dialysis twice a week. Initially, he could manage the commute on his own, but over the past year, he has often asked me to accompany him as he grew weaker. I have made it my routine to take him to every dialysis session. I don't want to leave him alone in this condition. He needs dialysis twice a week, so I scheduled it for Saturdays and Wednesdays. Saturday is my day off, so it's not an issue. For Wednesdays, I got permission from my boss to leave early and make up the hours by working at night after returning home from dialysis. I've been with this company for 10 years, and my boss, seeing me as a hardworking and loyal employee, had no problem granting this special permission. The issue arose at home with my wife, Ale. When she found out I'd be taking my dad for dialysis twice a week, she got upset. She never liked it when I took him occasionally, but now that I had taken up this responsibility diligently, she couldn't hold back. She said it was pointless to waste my time on my father because he was never going to be impressed by me. Here's a bit of background. My dad owned a merchandising business and had accumulated significant wealth. He wanted me to take over his business, but I was passionate about technology. I loved coding and creating software. So after school, when Dad wanted me to take business or management courses, I chose a software degree. He was fine with that as long as I was willing to join his company afterward. However, after graduation, I started working for a renowned tech firm. Dad wasn't happy that I chose to work for someone else instead of taking forward his legacy. He kept urging me to join his business, but I kept stalling. After my marriage, Dad asked me one final time, and I said no. He was furious and said he would donate all his wealth to charity, leaving me with nothing. Still, I didn't budge on my decision. I was earning well and bought a car and my own house by age 29. I was confident I could lead a decent life without his wealth. Our relationship soured after that. 5 years ago, Mom passed away from cardiac arrest, which was devastating for Dad. I had moved out at 17 for college and then started living on my own after getting a job. Mom was his only companion, and losing her was the most devastating thing for him. That's when our bond rejuvenated. I started visiting him often and took my kids to play with him. Eventually, he stepped down from his company and entrusted it to a trust to run. My wife, Ale, was never close to my parents. While my mother was alive, Ale avoided visiting, saying my mother was too nosy and that they didn't get along. When my father announced he would remove me from his will, Ale openly criticized my parents for being mean and evil. I insisted she stay out of my relationship with my parents, but she always stepped in and said it was something that would affect our future, especially our children's. I assured her that our future was secure irrespective of Dad's wealth, but she didn't understand. Now, addressing the current situation, Ale threw a fit when she learned I would be accompanying Dad for dialysis twice a week. Initially, I tried to explain that Dad had no one but me. He lost his parents long ago. Although he has an elder brother, he lives on the other side of the city and rarely visits Dad. Since Mom's demise, Dad has become very lonely, and I cannot abandon him in this condition, but my wife refuses to understand this. Recently, she has made my life miserable. Every Saturday, she comes up with some plans, whether it's hosting a party at the house, deep cleaning, an outing with the children, or something as trivial as a grocery pickup. She insists on these activities. I explained that she could plan anything she wanted on Sundays because Saturdays were dedicated to taking Dad for dialysis, but she persists with her plans and then later rebukes me for being late or missing them. I have to rush to my dad, take him to the dialysis center, wait for him, drop him off, and then rush back home to face her sarcasm and tantrums. It's not just Saturdays, she does the same on Wednesday evenings. I had committed to my boss that I would make up for the missed work hours late in the evening or at night after returning from dialysis. However, she always finds a way to trouble me. Almost every Wednesday evening, she goes out either to meet her family, reconnect with old friends, or attend some random party, leaving me responsible for the children. I have to juggle work, cook for the children, feed the younger one, and complete my pending tasks from my job. This is after a hectic day at work and the dialysis center. I know this is getting long, but it illustrates how miserable my condition is. Many times, my dad suggested that he go to the center with the nurse because he sees me always in a hurry, constantly checking my watch. After dropping him off, I don't even wait a second before rushing back. Even while picking him up, I ask him to be ready and come outside before I arrive. Dad has a full-time nurse and a caretaker, but I still feel bad for not spending time with him. The drive from his house to the center takes 30 minutes. I used to enjoy chatting with him during that drive about the good old days. But with Ale's increasing tantrums, all I can think about is rushing back home. Most of the time, I'm speeding in traffic, taking shortcuts, and overtaking other vehicles to cut down the drive time. This is the only time I get to spend with Dad, and I don't want to ruin it or stop it by asking him to go with the nurse. I too have responsibilities as a son. I'm just not able to bear this woman any longer. Update 1. It is just getting worse every day. My wife is leaving no stone unturned to dissuade me from attending to my father. Her argument is that it's a lost cause. Dad has already removed me from his will and given his wealth to charity, so there's no point in wasting time and energy on him. I fail to understand her. Do we do everything just for profit and loss? What if someone's parents have no wealth or are poor? Do their children abandon them because they have nothing to offer? After listening to her tantrums for so many months, I finally told her that she was not going to inherit anything from her parents, so why does she visit them every now and then? Oh my God. She completely lost it and said, "My parents did a lot more than your greedy father. They supported me in everything. They are not like your father, who disowned you for not joining his business. My father would have never done that to me, so don't you dare compare my parents to yours." This kind of argument has become the norm at my house almost every Wednesday and Saturday after I return from dialysis, with each instance becoming more severe and ugly. Earlier, she used to fight with me alone. Now, now? She yells and shouts at me in front of the children. Worse, I've heard her bad-mouthing my dad in front of the kids and manipulating them against both him and me. When I intervened, it led to another ugly fight. Aile's outbursts have become routine. On the rare days she doesn't fight, I feel something is missing, but she just becomes more aggressive the next day. I've almost given up on her now. I don't yell back or answer her, I just ignore her as if she doesn't exist. What else can I do? I cannot abandon my father just to please her. I don't care if he kicked me out of his will. He did so because of my own decision. I refused to join his company, forcing him to give his hard-earned business to a trust. It must have been so disheartening for him. That company was like a baby to my dad, and he had to donate it to someone else. He had every right to disown me because I hurt him. Sometimes I feel karma is biting me back because I hurt my dad. On the other hand, dad is becoming weaker. He can barely walk on his own and needs support to step down to the car. To save time, I used to ask him to come outside, but now I don't care about being late. I go inside to carefully walk him to the car and then back to his bed until he settles down peacefully. He is also experiencing shortness of breath, so I make sure to walk him as slowly as he needs. While driving, I'm careful not to speed and increase his heart rate. I don't mind being late to the house because rushing home wasn't helping. If I still have to deal with that evil woman, why not at least keep dad happy? My casual attitude has worsened the situation. Yesterday, Aile said, I need to choose between my dad and her. I tried to make her understand that dad wasn't going to be with us forever. Seeing his condition, it didn't seem like he had long. She replied curtly, in that case, you need to make your choice carefully. Someone who is going to be with you forever, or someone who is going to die soon. This was so insensitive. I told her, you know what? I'd rather choose my dad than choose you, who is so evil and selfish to a dying man. She packed her bags and left. I didn't even stop her. She needed some time to cool off, and I also needed some space from her. I'm taking care of the house, my children, dad, and my work, yet I feel so relieved, so relaxed. Her absence is actually soothing to me. The day before yesterday, she sent me divorce papers. I was somewhat expecting it, but didn't anticipate it coming so soon. I was shocked, but deep down, I was happy and relieved. I didn't call her. I just signed the papers and sent them back. Surprisingly, she didn't ask for custody of the children. That was the only clause I was worried about, but she clearly didn't want them. When she received the papers, she called me yelling, how could you just sign without calling me and pleading with me? Funny, right? Her mom snatched the phone and shouted that I should have acted like a man and tried to pacify my wife back into the marriage instead of just signing the papers. It was so funny. Why would I do that? She wanted a divorce, and I complied. I was like, it was good for me. I got rid of her without a fuss. I also taunted her, pointing out that Aile abandoned her children and didn't want them. She said I could have all my assets, including my 2 children. She didn't want any of it. Her mother explained that Aile was still very young and didn't want the burden of children. I said, fine by me. I'm glad to have my kids with me. It's a relief for me, no doubt, but I'm worried about my children. They miss their mom, especially the younger one. When I'm at the office, it's difficult to manage all the responsibilities alone, but I hope I'll be able to sail through this. Update 2. This will be a shorter update. I moved to Dad's house along with my children. It was a great move, I must say. Thanks to everyone for the lovely suggestion. It worked out. Moving in with Dad was good for all of us. Dad got the company of my children, and they got their grandpa to play with. Dad's full-time caregiver was willing to take care of my children for a raise. Why not have someone take care of my children under my dad's supervision? The best deal, right? It's such a happy feeling to see Dad playing and laughing with my children, and them enjoying themselves with their grandpa. Aile didn't see this coming. She wanted to make my life miserable by divorcing me. She thought I wouldn't be able to juggle all the responsibilities, taking care of the children, my dad, the house, and work. But you see, everything is set perfectly. I'm definitely having the last laugh. The divorce was the best thing ever. Update 3. It's sad news. Dad passed away last week in his sleep. He went to bed happy and content after playing with my children and never woke up again. The doctor said he died peacefully. The doctor, his nurse, and even his caregiver said Dad was happy after I moved in with him, which actually extended his lifespan by several months. He was on the verge of giving up before I moved in. It's very sad to lose your only parent, but I'm glad he got to spend the last few months of his life happily. My children are also very sad to lose him, but Dad imparted good values to them. They say Grandpa taught them to accept reality and move on. Life never stops for anyone. I feel so proud to hear such good things from them. They are indeed my strength in this moment of despair. But there is one more shocking news that came after Dad's demise. Dad's lawyer reached out to me, asking me to come to his office to reveal Dad's will. I said it wasn't necessary. Dad had already told me that he had given all his wealth to the trust, so I was fine with that, and he could proceed with the paperwork to transfer everything to them. I asked if I needed to vacate Dad's house because I assumed that was also given to the charity trust. He laughed and asked me to come over. When I went there, I found the trust members already present. The lawyer had called them as well. When the lawyer started reading the will, I was in tears. Dad had actually willed me as his heir. All his business, his house, his wealth was for me. I asked the lawyer if this change was made recently. I thought he made this change after I started taking care of him. The lawyer smiled and said I was always his heir and the will was never altered. I was inconsolably crying that my dad never abandoned me. Maybe he threatened to disown me so that I could take forward his business and his legacy. I was still crying when Dad's attorney pacified me. I said it kills me inside that I hurt my dad all his life, but he always cared for me. The lawyer said that Dad was actually very proud that I didn't give up on my passion under his pressure and that I was happy to lose my generational wealth to pursue my passion. Dad was very proud of me. The lawyer said that I'm the decision maker of the business, and if I want, I can take the company back from the trust and run it myself. I'm thinking of doing that. I did whatever I wanted to do, and Dad indirectly supported me. Now, it is my time to pay him back. I'm thinking of taking it back from the trust and scaling it to the level Dad wanted. I came back home and told my children about their grandpa's will. He has given some portion of his wealth to my children as as well, which they will receive after they turn 18. Today, we went to his grave with some flowers and spent some time in serenity. It is a very emotional phase for me. Final update. You know, the aunts came running back on seeing the sugar candy. A month after Dad's demise, I started taking over his business and other community service work. First, I quit my job and took over the business. Then I rented out my house because my children and I decided to live at my parents' house. They feel connected to their grandpa in this house. This house has my childhood memories, so I also don't want to leave it. With the news that I had inherited my father's $1 million wealth, I got many visitors at my house, long-lost relatives, friends, and neighbors. But the most surprising visitor was my ex-wife, Ale, and her parents. They entered the house sobbing, saying they didn't know about my father's demise, or else they would have attended the funeral. Her parents went on to say all good things about my dad. Ale hugged the children and cried about how much she missed them. I asked her if she missed them so much. Why didn't she visit them in the last 7 to 8 months? She said she went to our house, but it was locked. What BS? I was like, weren't you worried about your children when you saw the house was locked? Didn't you feel it necessary to contact me and check if the kids were fine? She had no answer. Her parents were like, let's forget whatever has happened in the past. Now that my father was gone, the children would be left alone in the house when I was at work. They need a mother, so it was better that we reconcile. I laughed in their faces at this suggestion. The children needed her the most when she left them with me. Now, the children have gotten used to her absence, and I don't want her back in my life. She started crying, and her parents left us alone. She held my hands and pleaded with me for reconciliation. She said she loved me and missed being with the children. I laughed and said, you know what? You don't love me. You love the wealth my dad left to me. You and your greedy parents are here at my door just to leech off my money. She also called my dad greedy and mean during our divorce. There was no way I was letting this woman have a penny of my dad's hard-earned money. She got offended that I had insulted her parents. She said until now she was pleading with me because she loved me, but now she would take what is rightfully hers. She didn't demand any alimony during the divorce, but now she wants half of my wealth. Rather, half of my dad's wealth. I discussed this possibility with my lawyer. He said her chances were slim. The divorce had settled a year before I got the inheritance. Besides, the children were with me, so there was no way she could get anything. But he also asked me to be careful about letting her spend time with the children. She could manipulate them and file for their custody, and then later use them to demand money for their maintenance and all that. I couldn't be more thankful to him for this advice. I'm going to supervise their meetings. I'm also spending a lot of time with the kids these days to help them cope with the loss so that they don't run to their mommy for emotional support. I've undertaken my dad's company, so it gives me a lot of flexibility to manage my well-being and personal life. I'm planning to take the kids on a vacation to the Bahamas. Yeah, why not? They deserve this lavish vacation. No, it's not about overspending my dad's wealth. I could have also afforded it, but I didn't have the time earlier, juggling work and taking care of dad. Now that I can, I want to take them out. As far as Ale is concerned, she hasn't contacted me since their last visit. I think she is busy knocking on every lawyer's office to file a suit against me.